Good evening, everybody. It's Stereo Police. Welcome to part 2 of the red pill audiophile test. You're here because you've watched part 1. If not, watch part 1, please. I want to immediately begin by asking you 3 things and promising you one thing. Number 1, I promise you, if you stick with me till the very end, I'll do my best to make this an enlightening and eye-opening experience. Whether you agree with me or not, that's a different story, but I'll do my best. Number 2, please do not watch or read the comments. That could spoil the test for you because it could bias you. Don't read the comments because this will be up for a little while, and by the time you will be getting around to watching this, there might be a few comments already deposited. And don't watch part 3 first. And number 3, this requires you to be intellectually honest with yourself. You've got to be intellectually honest about your preference. If you're not going to be intellectually honest with yourself, then you're wasting your time. Go somewhere else. Seriously. You're here because you want to get something out of this, I hope. And you've got to be intellectually honest with yourself. Number 4, you've got to be in a good state of mind for this. Relax. I know I can't do any critical listening if I'm stressed. I get a lot of migraines. I can't do critical listening if I have a migraine. If I have an electrical storm in my head, I can't do it. When you're stressed, you have an electrical storm in your head, you can't do it. Just do this when you're in a relaxed state and you're ready to do some critical listening. And finally, I'm going to tell you that as I switch through these digital filters and such, and you're trying to discern the difference and discern your preference, I'm going to do that first. And I want you to jot down either mentally or on pad and paper what your preference is, if any. That's up to you. You're being intellectually honest. There's no wrong answer to a preference. I told you that before. And before this video is over, I'm going to give you my preference. I'm going to be intellectually honest. I'm going to give you what my preference, but I don't want to give you that up front because I want you to come to your conclusions first. I don't want to bias you with my preference. And my preference will be based on what I hear live. I have a bit more of an advantage than you. But that doesn't mean that you're disadvantaged. You're going to be listening to this through a very good microphone, stereo. And as you heard earlier, you can hear differences, in between speakers. And you should be able to hear subtle differences too. It's a full frequency, quality Zoom microphone you're going to be hearing this with. So at the end, I'm going to give you my preference. And then I'm going to leave you to think about it until we get around to part 3. All right, so let's begin this test. I call it a test. It's really more of an experiment. I'm not quite sure what to call it, but let's begin. All right, I'm going to be using, and I could use really any CD. I started out with, I think I alluded to this earlier. I was going to use little classical earlier, and it just wasn't working for me. I just want to use something that I'm familiar with a little bass and treble, a little REM murmur. One of my favorite albums of all time. So we're going to insert that into, and make sure there's nothing in there. Eek. I was listening to something earlier. Okay, here we go. Murmur goes into the leak. All right. Great. The Luxman has been warmed up for quite some time. This is, of course, Class A. You can see that the heat sinks are at 160 degrees. Huh? All right. So, let's get started. I need to set up my Zoom. I'm going to set the Zoom microphone up because I'm going to be kneeling right there. So I think I can set it up right here, and that shouldn't block anything. All right. Very well. Let me get the Zoom set up, and we'll begin the experiment. All right, Stereo Police. I just want to alert you to what you're about to see because I'm not going to speak through it. I'm about to play one or two songs from the REM CD, and as I play, you're going to see the front display of the TAC cycle through a series of conversions, and the conversions will be none, 2 times oversampling, 4 times oversampling, 8 times oversampling, and DSD. If you don't know what DSD is, go look it up on Google. Now, once that's finished, that'll probably take care of an entire song. You can decide as you're listening which you prefer and what the differences are, and I'd like you to decide which you prefer and why. All right. Then when I'm finished, I'm going to return to none. And now when in the none stage, no conversion, then I'm going to cycle through a series of the digital filters. Finite impulse, sharp, slow, SDLY. I don't know what, honestly, I don't know what that is. And I'm not going to go look it up and pretend that I know what it is because I'm not fake. I don't know what it is, but it's a filter. And it doesn't matter for purposes of this exercise. It's just a filter. And the question is does it sound better or worse or different or not different from any of the others? So finite impulse response, sharp, slow, SDLY, sharp, slow. There's 4 filters we're going to cycle through, and which do you prefer and why? So we're going to have 1, which do you prefer and why out of these 5 here, and 1, which do you prefer and why out of these 4 over here. That's it. This will probably take care of one entire song here. That'll probably take care of the second song right there. That's what we're going to be doing. And that's what you're going to be seeing. And when I am finished, or when you're finished, you should hit pause, think about it, come up with your answer. Your answer might be none of the above. It might be one of them here, none here, one here, none there, or it might be one of these and one of these. I want you to pause and decide, and then I'm going to tell you what I hear and which I prefer because I'm here live. And then we're going to wait until part 3, like I said, so I can tell you objectively and scientifically which one of these ought to sound better, and perhaps why our preferences differ from reality. This is going to be very interesting. All right, let's do it. All right, Stereo Police, I just finished up the experiment and I'm going upstairs, and hopefully you've had time to ascertain, at least to the best that you can, which one you like, and I'm about to tell you what I prefer, and I definitely have a preference. And like I say, being intellectually honest, and let me start out by saying I've always run my DAC with no oversampling, and I forgot to put something over here, none. None was an option I meant to put earlier, okay? I've always run no oversampling and no filters. There was a time back along, if you watch my old videos, I would run some DSD. But today, and I did, by the way, I did more listening than the little samples I gave you. But here's what I prefer. Let me start with the filter. Whatever this SDLY sharp is, I preferred that one. Now, that's what I prefer. Now, why? I am really, as a drummer, I'm really sensitive to cymbals and hi-hats and the crispness and the high frequencies and the resolution, you know, and how a hi-hat sounds and cymbals and the realism of it and the impact of drums and the dynamics of drums. And so I listened first for that. And then, of course, there are other factors too. But I found that this filter was able to resolve my cymbals and hi-hats and the crispness and the sizzle and tizzle and all that. The resolution was there, and the realism was there. Was better with that filter. I don't even know what that filter is. And things just, you know, there was an old expression in audio, I think it's an expression in audio, the blacks were blacker. You know, the open spaces were just more, there was just more of an openness. It's very hard to describe. Now on to the conversion. I had a really, really hard time distinguishing between the different upsamples. But I did prefer upsampling over none. And I preferred upsampling over DSD. So I'm going to pick 8 times oversampling. I wasn't able to tell the difference between 2, 4, and 8, honestly. I'm going to have to pick one. So I'm going to pick 8. So my preference was 8. For the same reasons I just related to, the realism of the impact of the drums, the resolution of the cymbals, the blacks were blacker, and I forgot to mention, I just had there seemed to be just more overall contrast. You know, it's very hard to describe, and it's really hard to put. It's hard for me to describe sound in my own words, and I don't like using strict audiophile terminology because that's intellectually inbred terminology. I don't speak like, you know, hillbilly terms. So that's my answer. Now, this answer is at odds with objective reality. And yours might be too. And we're going to talk about that in part 3. If you wish to put your answer in the comments, that's fine. If you wish to keep your answer to yourself. The point behind this is just a learning experience. It's not a game. It's not a competition. Your answer is your answer. I'll see you all at part 3. I hope you're enjoying this. Stereo Police. Ciao.